Hi, I'm Don from DonDronesOn. Oh, sorry, I'm so used to just saying that. Hi, I'm your dad, and we need to talk seriously about the birds and the bees. No, sorry, not that birds and bees talk, but rather how things fly, birds, bees, and especially aircraft. Understanding how aircraft fly can be as complex as you want it to be. But you don't have to be an aeronautical engineer to understand the basic concepts or to understand how those concepts apply to the everyday flying of your drone or RC aircraft. This is the first of 3 videos covering the theory of flight knowledge area required for the Transport Canada Basic or Advanced RPAS pilot exams. In this first video, we'll focus on the forces acting on an aircraft and the all-mysterious power of lift. Let's start with the basics. When an aircraft, or a bird or a bee for that matter, is traveling through the air, it has 4 basic forces acting on it. First, there is the force of gravity, pulling it straight downwards. Secondly, there is a force called lift, pushing it upwards. Then there is some form of thrust, propelling the aircraft forward, and finally, drag, which more or less operates opposite the thrust. If your thrust is greater than the drag, your aircraft will move forward relative to the flow of the air. If your lift is greater than your aircraft's weight, the aircraft will move upwards. Otherwise, it will descend. When the lift nicely balances the force of gravity, level flight can be maintained. And similarly, if your thrust matches the drag force, you will be able to maintain a constant velocity. Now, thrust can come from a propeller or a jet engine or a rocket or even flapping or buzzing wings in the case of the birds and the bees. Not only does the thrust help you move from A to B, it also accelerates the flow of air over the wings, in the case of a fixed-wing aircraft at least. And the more air you have flowing over your wings, the greater the lift. And we'll get to that soon. Counteracting any forward motion through air is drag. No, not that drag. Drag, like thrust, is parallel to the flow of air and basically acts to slow the aircraft down. Drag comes in 2 forms, parasitic drag and induced drag. Parasitic drag is the obvious one. It's caused by actually having to push through the air. The bigger the cross-sectional area of your aircraft, the bigger your drag. Parasitic drag is also the result of friction between your aircraft and the air, and the effect of various interfering elements of your aircraft like struts and cameras and things like that. Smooth, streamlined aircraft with minimal bumps or jutouts will result in the least parasitic drag. Now, the faster you're traveling through the air, the more your parasitic drag. In fact, the parasitic drag increases with the square of your velocity. Twice as fast, 4 times the parasitic drag. Parasitic drag is also proportional to the density of the air. The higher you are in the atmosphere, the thinner the air, and the less parasitic drag. But please, don't test that out with your drone. The second kind of drag is called induced drag. Induced drag is actually a result of lift. Think of it as the drag caused by all the vortex swirls that result when you pass a wing or an airfoil through the air. These vortexes actually slow you down. Unlike parasitic drag, though, induced drag actually decreases as you increase your speed. And the induced drag also decreases as your wingspan or airfoil length increases. Your total drag, the sum of your parasitic drag and induced drag, looks like this on a graph. Your parasitic drag increases with speed and your induced drag decreases with speed. This sweet spot in the middle is where your minimum drag exists for a given aircraft at a given altitude. We call this the minimum drag speed, and it is also called the best glide speed. From a fuel efficiency perspective, this is the optimum speed to fly your aircraft. All of this talk about drag is a bit of a downer, so let's turn to lift. Lift is a force that operates perpendicular to the flow of air. Usually we think of lift as pushing the wings of our aircraft upwards, but the blades of a propeller are also airfoils, just like your wings, but they're rotating through the air. Propellers can push our aircraft straight up or forwards or anything in between, depending upon the angle of rotation. And it's all because of lift. What causes lift? It's tempting to think that a wing or a propeller or a ceiling fan blade, for that matter, simply knocks the air away, much like a tennis racket hits a tennis ball. Newton's third law would explain this by saying that whatever force is required to knock the air downwards must be matched by an equal and opposite force upwards. There we go, lift, simple. Surprisingly, this intuitive view of lift is almost right, but only scratches the surface of all of the true intricacies of lift. Well, you might expect me now to start talking about Bernoulli's principle, and I will, but only because Transport Canada expects you to know about it, not because it has anything to do with aircraft lift. Bernoulli's principle states that the speed of a fluid in a flow stream is inversely proportionate to its static pressure. So if you speed up the air, the pressure will be lower. In fact, many of us were taught that air must flow faster over the top of a wing shaped like this, and so the pressure is lower on the top, and bing bang boom, there's your lift, thanks to Mr. Bernoulli. Well, it turns out that applying Bernoulli's theorem to aircraft lift is much like saying storks deliver babies. Storks are real, and Bernoulli's theory is real, but storks don't deliver babies, and believe it or not, Bernoulli doesn't deliver lift. I know, it's an outrageous thing to say, but it's true, and I'll share some great material from the likes of Cambridge University and the University of Michigan School of Engineering to prove it. There's links in the description below this video. And if you're still stuck on Bernoulli, please explain to me how an aircraft can fly upside down, or how a plain flat wing can still provide lift. I can explain these things, but Bernoulli's principle cannot. To understand lift properly, we need to think about three principles of fluids. The first principle is how to get a fluid flow to curve. That's not too hard to understand. In order to get it to move in a curve, you clearly need to apply some sort of force to push it that way, like this. The second principle: when a fluid does move in a curve, the pressure of the gas on the inside of that curve is less than the pressure on the outside of the curve. That one's a bit more difficult to grasp intuitively, but watch the Cambridge University video linked in the description for an explanation. The third principle is really strange. It's called the Coanda effect, and it is the tendency for a fluid to follow the surface of a solid that's in its path. Engineers call this entrainment. Holding a curved object like a spoon or a bottle under a stream of water is often used as an illustration of the Coanda effect. Now let's put all three of these principles together, and I'll use a lift simulator from NASA to help to illustrate how all of this works. Here's a streamlined shape in a flow of air. Let's assume it's the cross-section of an airfoil. And note that it's the same shape on the top and the bottom in this case, so there's no bogus Bernoulli thing going on. At the bottom here, you will see that there is zero lift, so not a very successful airplane. But let's tilt the airfoil a little bit. Now, the angle between the airflow and the imaginary line through the airfoil, dubbed the chord, is called the angle of attack of the airfoil. As you increase the angle of attack, notice several things. First of all, the air underneath the wing is curving downwards. And notice that it's not like tennis balls hitting the wing. The whole stream is bending downwards, even if it doesn't come close to touching the wing. Bending that air downwards requires a force pushing downwards. Newton's third law says that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So the result here is that the wing is pushed up. Yay, lift! And you can see the lifting force down here in the simulation. But wait, there's more, as they say on TV. Remember I said that when an airflow is curved, the pressure is less on the inside of the curve than on the outside of the curve. Well, way down here under the wing, the air pressure is simply atmospheric pressure. I'll call it A0. But up here closer to the wing, the pressure must be higher than A0. Now, hold that thought while we look above the wing. Above the wing, the air is also bent downwards, following the shape of the wing due to the Coanda effect. Once again, the pressure on the inside of the curved airflow is less than on the outside of the curve. Way above the wing, the pressure is atmospheric pressure, once again A0. But close to the wing, the pressure will now be less than atmospheric pressure due to the curvature of that airflow. And it is this air pressure difference that is the true source of lift in airfoils. Now, a keen observer will quickly point out that the speed of the air over the wing is faster than the air under the wing. See, Bernoulli's principle at work. The catch is that the air is moving faster because of the pressure difference. It's not the other way around. The airspeed is not causing the pressure difference. Okay, that's a lot to take in. So if you want to pause the video and go fly your drone, now's a good time to do it. Okay, now that you're back, let's cover a few more important points to understand. First, let's understand what happens as you increase the angle of attack. Aha, the lift increases. And it will continue to increase as long as the air sticks to the curve of the top of the wing. And this is why we want that wing to be a nice streamlined profile. And the reason we want it smooth, not rough or covered in nasty ice, for example. When it's rough or covered in ice, you lose the laminar flow. And this smooth airflow, laminar flow, is critical to the whole process. You want the air to stick it out till the trailing edge of the wing. As soon as it breaks off at the so-called separation point, you get all sorts of nasty turbulence. And remember that induced drag I talked about? Well, there it is. Watch as I tilt the angle of attack even more. At some angle, the separation point moves rapidly from the trailing edge forward on the wing. You get all sorts of turbulence and the lift drops dramatically. The point at which you rapidly lose lift is called the stall condition. Usually at this point, there is insufficient lift to overcome the weight of the aircraft, and things go downhill from there, literally. Okay, let's set the angle of attack down to something reasonable again and see one other effect. What happens as our airspeed increases? Well, the lift goes up. Now, as you approach or exceed the speed of sound, things get a little bit weird. But at the normal speeds our RC aircraft fly and the speed of the props on our drones, generally speaking, the faster the airfoil goes through the air, the more lift you get. One last little tidbit. You can well imagine that there is a midpoint to all of this lift force on the wing. This is called the center of lift. There is also an imaginary point in the aircraft that is the center of gravity for the aircraft, the point of balance of the weight from the front to the back. For nice stable flight in a normal fixed wing aircraft, you generally want the center of gravity to be a little bit ahead of the center of lift. This allows your tail section to be optimally used to control your pitch. But wait, that's a whole nother story. And let's get into that in the next video. So there you have it. The 4 forces acting on all aircraft: gravity, lift, thrust, and drag. And perhaps a controversial but correct explanation of lift. If you found this video helpful, please give me a thumbs up and drop me a comment down below. Please subscribe to my channel if you don't do so already, and hit the bell for notification of all my upcoming videos. Thanks for watching.